This is Joe from 718 Cyclery and Outdoors here in Brooklyn, and also from the little web series we put together, which is called The Diary of an Extremely Small Business. And today what I'm going to talk about are the different adjustments we've had to make since I moved into this tiny shop about a year and a half ago. Many of you know I was an architect for about 20 years, and that left brain, right brain thing is really, I think, what drew me into the bike industry and the bike world, and being able to kind of work on both sides of your brain, the design of bikes, the tools, the fittings, also the beauty of bikes. I think really kind of subconsciously is what drew me into the bike world. In architecture, certainly you have that, and I was one of those kids that knew what I wanted to be as I was a little kid, and certainly pursued it all the way through to some pretty massive and great firms in New York City here. The challenge I had with it, though, I was working in such big places. It was you're working at an airport and it's going to be done in 11 years. It's like, I don't have 11 years. This is a lot. And hard to find your place in a big, crazy world like that. And with bikes, you're affecting people's health, you're affecting pollution, traffic congestion right away. You really have a real direct impact on the work that you do. The other thing that I think drew me in, and this is kind of what this video is getting at, was that there was a moment in architecture when I remember being in a big room and looking around that room and thinking about, hey, I'm going to be her in 5 years and I'm going to be him in that office in 10 years. Your future was kind of laid out in some respects, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be that person in 5 years and that person in 10 years. I kind of wanted to do my own thing, but never really with architecture for some strange reason. What I liked about starting my own business was I don't know what's going to happen today, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I like that. And I like that it's up to me. I like that I'm betting on me and my wits and my skills and ability and desire and drive. That's what's going to carry me. As opposed to working in a big firm where you're like, well, I hope the partners had a great golf round this weekend and got more work because that work just kind of falls out of the sky. So the idea of really being able to course correct and make fine adjustments is what really drew me into the industry. And we had a big shop for 9 or 10 years with a lot of great employees, and the thing kind of pulled me in directions, and it turned into something that was kind of getting away from that original concept. So moving to this small space, it's 320 square feet, kind of being the only employee has allowed me to really sink or swim kind of on my own merits. So what happened was I say we a lot. I moved here in January of 2020, which is about 20 minutes before COVID hit. So that the first kind of act, we'll call it an act or chapter one of this location was selling bikes like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we sold so many bikes, and that was from February and March up until May, and this is 2020. So that chapter of the shop, we were just slinging bikes left and right, selling tons of bikes. People were, the quarantine thing was new. People were trying to, ride to work. People were trying to find mobility issues, things to do with their family. We sold so many bikes. But around April or May of 2020, I kind of saw, just like everyone else in the bike industry, I saw that the spigot was going to be turned off. What's interesting is that in 2019, there were 30% fewer bikes imported into America because of all the tariffs with China during that year. So in 2020, you're kind of dealing with not a full deck of bikes and a demand that's through the roof. So I knew, just like everyone else knew, that this was going to end. So around April or May, I started really tinkering and reworking our custom build program, which we've done for years. We used to call it collaborative builds. And this gets into Act 2, or Chapter 2. And what that was me, acquiring frames and linking in with people that were looking to kind of build a custom bike. And again, this is how the shop started 13 years ago. Redid the form on the website, made it a little easier, and worked on the pricing and worked on frames, because frames at that point were still available. So I bought tons of frames. I just kind of hoarded frames as best I could. I don't have a lot of storage space, but I bought as many as I could. So that, from May of 2020 on, gangbusters, building custom bikes. And, the margins there in building a custom bike are a lot more healthier than selling a bike out of a box. And in addition, you're building a customer for life. That when you're delivering a bike to someone, like when someone gets a bike built for them, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for most folks. And I get to deliver 2 to 3 of those a week. So you're hitting a home run constantly, right? a great experience. It's fun to build new projects, as opposed to a bike out of a box. So there's a lot of things that really lent itself to it being a great, chapter of the bike shop. And as that ran all through the last end of 2020 and into 2021, we started seeing parts become a real issue. Availability of components, the things that I would use to build a bike, started having a challenge trying to find. And I'd have to buy some things retail, and that's no way to run a business. Buying at retail and then selling those parts at retail obviously doesn't quite work. And frames are also starting, becoming harder and harder to find. So this is about April or May of 2021 where I was like, God, we need to think beyond this, because this is not a sustainable model right now. Chapter 1, selling bikes. Chapter 2, building custom bikes. When this whole thing is over, that's going to be a great menu of options that I have for my customers. But right now, that's just not the way it's working, right? So now, I started thinking more and more about all the outdoor stuff that we do and all the events and trips. And, getting into the experiential side. So let's talk about Chapter 3, which started about March and April and is currently running through right now. This is summer of 2021. Experiences are, priceless. I've seen research where, people these days will, if they have $100, they would rather spend it on an experience than on a thing. And thinking about the diamond industry having a hard time selling diamonds because young couples are going to take that $4,500 and go on a trip to Machu Picchu or something like that, as opposed to buying a diamond. So that's always been in the back of my mind, and we've always done a lot of trips and events, but the idea to double down on that right now, it's like, all right, let's do a lot of trips. Let's do a lot of micro tours. Let's do day trips. Let's do long trips to the Catskills. These are things that I can do. These are things that don't have an inventory, and these are things that aren't going to run out. And these are things that when I do them just generates a lot of great energy around the shop. It creates sales. It creates content. All of these things that I can do, and it's up to me to do that. So we've been loading up on the trips almost every 2 weeks. Micro tours, day trips, things like that. Because I think that this Chapter 3 part of the shop is going to be about experience and about the things that aren't bought and sold necessarily, and things that aren't in inventory, and things that aren't stuck on a container ship off of Long Beach. So that's where we're at right now, and thinking about the outdoor industry, and thinking about kind of being let down by the bike industry. And I won't get into that. I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me in a way. But I do feel very let down by the bike industry. So I've moved, moving more and more into the outdoor industry, and kind of, having a blend of a shop, almost like a mini REI in the shop. So in the end, I'm very fortunate in that being a tiny business with a tiny exposure, I'm able to raise and lower the sales as needed, and able to kind of tack, there's 2 sailing references, and I'm not a sailor in any way, able to kind of maneuver this business as it needs to be maneuvered in order to kind of things that are getting thrown at retail businesses right now are crazy in terms of logistics and availabilities and costs. So trying to control that on my end right now, currently through trips and experiences, seems to be working. I love coming to work. People love coming to the shop. So those are kind of some of the indicators that things seem to be working. Anyway, well, thanks for watching. I know this is just a blob or a blah of a talking head just talking about their business, but I do appreciate you watching. Subscribing would be awesome. We're trying to build our subscription, our channel on YouTube. I say we. I am trying to build my YouTube channel. So like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the video if you like the channel. We have a bunch of other playlists and things like that we work on. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.